Hey everyone, Dr. Baron Groder here. With this video, I want to go over some extraction techniques, how to virtually extract teeth for a case, whether it's for implants, for ortho, an immediate denture, or partial, or whatnot. For whatever reason you want to remove some teeth, I'm going to show you a couple techniques that I currently use. It's one of those techniques or subjects that you can tackle it one of a million different ways, okay? Different softwares and whatnot. But I'm going to go over how to do it in BlueSkyPlan. And I want to point something out, at least at the time of this making this video, these features are all free. So long as you don't actually create a surgical guide or create a denture, do an ortho plan, doing these model edits are free. So you can, even if you're using other software, you just want to edit the STL model, these digital, the models of our teeth here, you can do that in BlueSkyPlan at no charge. Other than that, yeah, so I will tell you that in this case, I have brought in not just the STL models, but also the DICOM itself. Okay, and you can see that here, and I guess I should go ahead and show you that it's an entire model. I like to change the rendering, just a preference of mine. But anyway, so this is the patient CT scan, and I like to do this is an implant case that I have worked up already, and so for me it made sense to bring in the CT scan. Whenever you have that available to you, it's going to be best to go ahead and bring it in. You'll see in this video why it's helpful. But suffice to say, you don't have to have it, but it does help. And if you're wondering why these teeth are back here, it's because this is an open bite CT scan. The patient was protruded forward to get into the bite stick, and so that's why her teeth, look the way they do. So anyway, let's move ahead. If you've watched my videos before, you probably know that I can very easily get off tangent, and I apologize for that, but I'll try to keep this fairly on task. So for the different techniques that I'm going to cover, there are the old original techniques a lot of people are used to, which is using the cut tool for single tooth extraction or for multiple teeth. And then we're going to go over what I use now, as I almost don't use the cut tool at all anymore, but single tooth select tool and multiple teeth select tool. So first, let's just real quickly show you what the cut tool looks like. So if I turn off the maxillary model, now I'm in the surfaces panel. If you go up to panels, surfaces, that's where you'll find it if it's not already listed over here on the right. I have a bunch of panels that are open because I've used these, and unless I actually hit the X, it's going to be there, semi-permanently. And I can always bring it back up by opening it there. And I apologize, I need to preface one thing. This case I brought in the opening screen by doing a surgical guide. Now you could do straight up model edit, you can do whatever you want. But as you notice, there are different modules over here. There's advanced surgical guide, and then there's model editing. And one of the first things that, well, I don't have to do it just yet, but I'm going to go ahead and come over to model editing, because really that's what we're doing here, is editing the models. Okay, we're going to be virtually extracting. We're not adding implants, or you can, but that's not the purpose of this video. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. Sorry, my son in the background, if you heard that. Yeah, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to extract. We'll just start with this canine right here. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the mandibular anatomy because that's not pertinent for this. And what I always like to do is to duplicate the model, so I can always get back to it just in case. I'm going to turn this one off, and I'm even going to change colors just so I can, kind of keep track of what I'm doing, and whatever's obvious to you, just pick a color. Okay, so now the cut tool, if you've been a legacy user of the software, you know that normally you can just press the shift button and trace your area. And you might be wondering, well, geez, that doesn't work anymore. Where'd my cut tool go? It is still there. The problem is that sometimes it'll cause people to have issues and things will get cut that they didn't mean to. So now, whenever you want to use the cut tool, you need to make sure in the surfaces panel, make sure you have the right one selected, not just visible, but you want to have it selected. You don't want to be clicked on this one because it's not going to know what it's doing. It's trying to cut a model that's not there. So it's gray or blue, which means it's selected. And now we're going to press on the cut tool right here. Okay? So now my crosshair has turned into oh boy, now anyways, it's turned into a crosshair as opposed to a pointer. Sorry. So now all I have to do is click and sort of lasso around the area that I want to delete. Okay, it can be a little bit tricky. You notice that right in there, I wasn't trying to do a little S-curve there, but I did. And that's one of the things that's a problem with this. When you're done with this, you can hit the escape button or uncheck it right here by clicking on it again. Okay, the cut all, what that does is if you had multiple of them on and the CT surface, you could cut all of them that are overlapping, anything that is in the area that you're inscribing, not just the selected model. Okay, so now that we've done this cut, let's look at what it looks like, because it's going to cut everything that's inside of here, meaning if the teeth were overlapped, it's going to cut the other tooth. Now, I'm going to tell you that this cut isn't actually terrible. It's not great. I don't love this part right here, but for the most part, it's fairly decently accurate. Let's go ahead and turn this one on, and let's even turn down the transparency so we can kind of evaluate it. And you can see that it's cut away a little bit of the gingiva, but not a lot. And let's be honest, once you've extracted the tooth, the gingiva is going to squish down a little bit. So that's not the end of the world. But I'm going to also tell you that that is not always going to be the case. Using the cut tool can be very annoying at times. You know, those of us that have been using software for a while got used to it and we dealt with it, but it certainly wasn't always ideal. And that's why a lot of us relied on Mesh Mixer to do our cuts instead. You can also come around here and use the flat part that connects the two lines. I didn't mean to go up top here. If you do that, you accidentally just overlap your line so it's like a figure eight, and then it won't know what to do. All right, so let me come back and let me just crop off this part. And there, now we have a cleaner model, and I could work with this. Okay? It's not beautiful, but again, this is just getting it out of the way so I can place an implant or whatever. Now, if I don't like this, but I don't want to have to cut this off, I can come over to my model editing module, or panel, which again is listed in the panels, model edit. And I can come to my smooth brush, and now I bring my mouse over here and hold the shift button, which makes it a tool as opposed to a cursor. And so I can kind of just smooth that out. So if you're doing it for a wax up or you're doing it for an ortho case and you want to smooth that up, that's possible. But again, this is not the technique I use, but this is how it works. Now, if you notice in here, there's actually some holes in the model. Do you see how there's like a window right here? And that's one of the reasons I don't like this, is because it tends to leave little errors. We can work around that. The software will fix them and whatnot, but honestly, it's just, now that we have better tools, I don't even bother with it. But I'll leave it at that. So now, let's imagine we want to do multiple teeth, because this patient, we need to extract all of her teeth, okay? Well, here's the problem, a big problem with the cut tool, is if I want to cut multiple teeth out, I have to look at them. I can do them one at a time, but if I try to instead come over to surfaces and use the cut tool, this is going to be very ugly. Now I'll just stop at this lateral. And let's see what it looks like. I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be pretty. And the more you're cutting away, it does tend to have to calculate more because it's having to repair the hole that it's creating. So it's not just about deleting data. It's also about repairing what you've done after the fact. Now look at this. Look at the teeth on the other side, the gingiva. It's all messed up and all these holes. And look at the gingiva, how far down it went the palate. I mean, it just goes to show. I mean, I wasn't trying to screw it up. I positioned it right, looking right at the teeth and cut them. Maybe I could have done one fewer tooth. But again, these areas are all screwed up still too. The only one that's halfway decent is this one, but look where it came out above the gingiva. I had to cut it again. So as you can see, cutting a lot of teeth just does not work very well. There are ways to do it, but they're a pain. And so in a case like this, before we had these newer tools, I would have just said, nah, I'm going to Mesh Mixer and I'm going to do it the easy way. Okay? So that's cutting tool, let me bring this up. That's cutting a single tooth with the cut tool, which works okay, and cutting multiple teeth with the cut tool, which basically does not work. Now let's try the actual select tool. So I'm going to turn this off. No reason to delete it for right now. And I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again so I can have another model to work with. So now I'm going to change this to yellow. Okay. So now let me show you how I would instead remove this same tooth, but using the select tool. So I'm going to come over here to model edit. Okay, so in this one, in this technique, we're now going to use a selection brush, which is sort of like a highlighting tool. Okay, so I'm going to click on selection brush, and now that it's blue, it's active. To activate the tool so it actually works is I have to hold the shift button again. Now, if you notice there's a diameter, how large this tool is, and the tool stays the same size, but you can zoom in and out the model. But you can also increase the tool by wheeling your mouse while holding the shift button up and down, or grabbing the slider. Okay. Problem with this is you can't tell how big or small it is. So I like to just hold my shift button and use the wheel on my mouse. Okay. So for this, I'm just going to select what I want to delete. Okay. I don't like my circle to be too big. And all I'm going to do is circle or highlight the border. Okay. If you get really close, you probably want to make your circle a little bit bigger. Doesn't have to be exact, but I want to get pretty close. Now along the gingival margin, I'm particularly uncaring about how exact I am because again, it's going to be an extracted tooth. So the tissue is going to compress to whatever I kind of tell it to do. And if you're not familiar with the navigation buttons on here, if I let go of the mouse and I press the left button, it allows me to rock it around. The right button allows me to zoom in and out. Press both buttons and you can slide it around, or press the wheel button. Anyway, that's covered in other videos, so I'm not going to spend much time on that. Hopefully that tells you everything. Anyways, okay. And it can be a little tedious, but it will pay off very well in the end. So the cut tool works pretty quickly, but it's pretty blunt, and you end up with weird margins. Okay? But this, we've pretty much inscribed everything we want gone. And so now I come over here and click the cut selected area. And all it's going to do is cut the data that has been highlighted. Okay, and it's saving because I have it set up to save automatically. So anyway, that's all that. That's why that happened. Anyway, so now it is now. You can see that it's kind of separated there. Now I can press the shift button and just double click, and anything that is continuous will be highlighted. Since it's not connected, it didn't highlight the entire model. Whereas, let me hit Control Z to undo that. If I double click over here, everything else gets selected. Pretty simple there. Control Z. All right, let's come back. Let's double click this and hit cut selected area. So now that tooth is gone. But you can't just stop there because when you're making it, doing a setup, a wax up, or a surgical guide, the software has to know where it ends, so it needs to fill in this hole. Well, that's pretty simple. We just come over here to select holes manually, and it's going to give us let me turn off the selection brush, and it's going to have a little ring over every there's a hole. Technically, the whole base of the model is a hole. Okay. Notice it's probably hard to see in your video, but there's a little thin line right here on the border, and as I come over top of it, it highlights it. Anyway, I don't want to click close all holes. I'm going to select the one hole I want selected, or multiple holes, and say close selected holes. And there it is. It's fixed it. It's repaired it. At this point, I might be done. I've said, hey, you know what? I've extracted this. This is just like taking a stone model and I buzzed it off and there we go. So at this point, again, you're done. If you don't like the little roughness here, we just come over to the smoothing tool, hold the shift button, and smooth those areas out. Okay, not critical, especially not for a surgical guide. I wouldn't even waste my time with that. But depending on what you're doing, you might want to smooth that off. So here's one thing that can come into play, and that is that what if you have an implant that you want to place in this position? So I've actually planned implants in this case, unfortunately not in this area. So and then I can show you the implants. So let's go ahead and let's just remove one more tooth, okay? So you can see it now. Let's move a tooth that's between teeth. That's actually probably a good thing to do, and actually I had thought about that before. So let's go ahead and do that one more time, and you can go ahead and fast forward the video if you want, but I'm not going to bother editing this portion. I'm just going to go ahead and do it again, so you can either watch or fast forward. Very easy to get spend time being really tedious and finicky. Try to avoid that. All right. Okay, so I got a continuous loop all the way around that tooth, and I can say cut selected area. Now I can double click this. If the whole thing's selected, that would mean there's a bridge. Somewhere in there it's still connected. Cut selected area, and now manually select holes manually. Click there. Close selected holes, and there's my virtual extraction, which again is actually pretty darn good. But what if we turn on our implants? And let's take a look at this view. Let's click on this implant. Where is that? Because I'm in the model editing module, it might not let me center unless I changed modules. Yeah, okay. Let's go to advanced, and that way I can just click on this and have it automatically center there. Model editing, backed up model. Okay, so what I wanted to show you here is, let's look at the outline. I'm going to for this I'm going to turn, sorry, I'm blanking here for a second. Right now, what am I thinking about? I want to show you, before I do anything, I'm going to show you what I'm trying to correct here. So let's zoom in. I'm holding the right button on my mouse and zooming in. Here's my extraction line. Okay. I would like this to go even deeper. I mean, it's an extracted tooth, so of course I could have my guide extrude down a little bit more. So first of all, the implant and stuff is kind of getting in my way. It's making it a little bit hard to see, and all I really want to see is this guide tube. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to go back into the implant panel. That way I can actually access the abutments, and I'm going to turn them off right here so there's no more abutments. The implant's not in my way. I don't care about that. So now I can see this line, and this is what I want to mess with. So I'm going to come over here. It's a little weird on my screen because I'm so used to using higher resolution, but for the videos I dial it down. Let's go to model editing and go to model edit, and we're looking for this tool right here, move outlines. Now this is the cool trick that actually, when I first started using it, I'll be honest, I hated it. I thought it just did not work well for me, but I've gotten much better with it. So what this does is I'm going to have to make this circle larger, but I'm going to show you for now, if I click on this, I can drag this, okay? And I can move things around however I want. Now, the fewer changes you do, the better off you will be. Okay, So let's just take a look at this model, and you can see these little dimples that I created here. Not real helpful. So I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to Control Z because I didn't need to do any of that. Let's make this aligned with this implant by clicking this button right here. Okay, so now what I can do is I'm going to first of all zoom in a bit, and then, oops, wheel this up a bit, almost as wide as the whole, sorry, let's zoom out a bit, almost as wide as the whole space, not quite. So now when I drag it, it makes it a little bit more of a big, broad change, okay? Now I do not want to impinge on the adjacent tooth. That's why having the CBCT visible is very helpful. If you do, hit Control Z or the little back arrow up top. And all I'm trying to do is to get this area sort of up by this guide tube so that the guide will extend into the extraction socket a little bit better. Okay. Now I have to rotate to show it from the buccal lingual and do the same thing. You can go up as high as you want and just keep kind of rotating and adjusting as you see fit. Try not to make any sharp bends to it because that's going to create those little dimples that are kind of just silly on the resulting model. And I just sort of spin around it and adjust, and just maybe spin around it twice just to make sure everywhere is below it. Okay, so now, and I should have duplicated this for comparison's sake. I apologize that I didn't, but I'm going to open this back up, and now let's take a look at the what we've got to work with. Now I've got this nice concave pontic-like site, edentulated site. Okay, so that's the trick on, virtual extraction. That's how I do them all now. And now I spent some time because I'm teaching it, but truthfully, all I have to do is select the area, repair it, and then if necessary, move the outline. Okay, so now let's do one last thing, and that's going to be to extract multiple teeth. Last time I showed you how to extract 3 teeth. I'm going to go ahead and extract 3 teeth again. So let's come over here and let's duplicate this model just so we can be, true to form and do a bunch of teeth all at once. So let's change this color. Let's find another, I don't know, sure. Okay, and this time I'm going to extract these same 4 teeth that I did last time that looked pretty much terrible. Did I keep that model? I did, I think. Yeah, so we can compare how these two will look. All right, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go to my model editing module. I'm going to click on my selection brush, and I'm going to start selecting. Now, again, especially in the papilla area, don't worry about making it too perfect because, well, the papilla is going to collapse a bit. So making this area all perfectly outlined is more work than necessary. I feel like I should change the color of this model. I don't know how well these colors are showing up. It's a little bit hard to see on, well, not, it doesn't look great on mine. All the dark model colors are pretty hard to evaluate, so I apologize about that. If you over highlight, who cares? In fact, I'm going to show you a problem with that over highlighting that I just created that I could fix right now. I'll tell you what I should fix, but I'm not going to actually fix it. Let me just, okay, so you see how it's connected? There's this little lone piece right there. I mean, you got to realize that's not going to get deleted, which is, I'm going to show you what kind of problem that causes in a minute. It's not a big problem, but it's a problem nonetheless. Okay, I think we're pretty good. Now I can hit cut selected area. Now I can double click here. Oop, everything selected. What does that mean? It's still continuous. And there it is. There's the bridge. So okay, cut selected area. And there we go. Delete, cut selected area. But notice this little fragment floating in here. Not a big deal. Cut selected area, and it's gone. But that's what happens if you don't get a continuous cut. This little area down here, not probably necessary, but that was like a little abstraction area. Maybe not the worst idea to come in and honestly just stay right on the gingival margin, and then cut selected area. There we go. So anyway, now we've cut everything out, and now select holes manually, click on this, and close selected holes. All right, there's our edentulated area. And let's compare this to the one we did before, which I don't think anyone really needs to see the comparison, but pretty terrible by comparison, right? I mean, this purple one is so much better. It's not perfect, but it is a gazillion times better. I didn't even notice how much I cut off of the distal of the central in that last one. I knew I'd done it a little bit, but not that much. So you can see that there's obviously a preferred technique here. And lastly, if you want to have indents there, because you're going to be placing implants here and there, now I can, and you're going to be making, we'll say, a fixed bridge, and you want to have pontic sites developed in your model, well, that's not too hard to do. I'm not going to go through all of it, but again, it's the same thing that we did earlier. And all we're going to do, instead of, I don't even need to bother going into the implant panel, I'm just going to, let me see. I can edit the outlines. Yeah, I guess it is actually, yeah, here we go. So I can come over here and I can focus in on whatever tooth I want to, and now I can come to the model editing and edit the outlines just like I had before. I can say, okay, move outlines. Let's make this guy a nice pontic site. And in fact, since this is pretty raw right here, I'm hoping you guys can see this color. So let me change the color. I'm gonna probably reuse a color here. Okay, so let it save for a second. But now I can see that color a little bit, that purple. Again, sorry, it was pretty terrible. Really wasn't very helpful. But now what I'll be able to do is I'm going to go to model editing, and I'm going to zoom out even more. And now drag it. Drag it. Drag it. And I'm just making some pontic sites for all of these teeth. I'm doing it very quickly, of course. I hope you can appreciate that. And let's do this one more, because I started to do it over here. And it's actually pretty close to done. You can see why I extracted this tooth. Nice vertical root fracture. And I'll call it a day there. But let's just take a look at what that looks like in this model. So there's the two pontic sites that I've created. I can go ahead and do that one. I could do this one as well, which I had done in the other model previously. So you get the point. Pretty quick to use that move outline tool to round things out and make it look a little nicer. You can always come back with the smoothing brush and smooth out anything you don't like. Okay, well, this video went a little longer. I apologize for any tangents I went on and any, kind of pointless rambling I did, but hopefully that explains some of the techniques. Make sure you check the chapters at the bottom to find the specific tool you want to use, and that's it. Make sure you check out my website, barongrutterdds.com, where I have a lot of other videos sort of cataloged a little more easily to find, and also courses, information on courses, and you can sign up for course information in case you want to find out when the next course is going to be listed. All right, and also a lot of the various tools that I use in my office, links and where you can buy them and whatnot. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helps you. Bye for now.